Hi, we're Hastings Youth Council members.
And we're here to encourage young people to vote
for the local elections on the 3rd of May.
We've just interviewed the main parties standing for the local elections.
And we've asked them 3 questions.
Number 1, why should young people vote?
Well, you're really the future, and if you don't vote, then your voices aren't going to get heard. So politicians they're only in business because of people's votes, and that your vote is that your little bit of the cake, if you want. So you really need to take that on board. And in fact, for the Green Party, it's policy to lower the voting age to 16 because we think young people really should have a say in policies. And we also want to reform the electoral system so every vote counts. At the moment, for our vote share, we'd actually already have 2 Green councillors in Hastings, and we don't have 1. So we want you to vote for, well, we'd like you to vote for us, but we want you to vote so that you actually do have a say in what happens in your future. It's really important.
I think it's important to vote anyway. I mean, I know young people haven't voted much in recent years. I think that's changing. I think young people are beginning to realise it makes a difference. But if you don't vote, then you can't complain about the way the country's run or the way the council's run. I mean, voting enables you to have a say in your future and the present as well. And particularly for young people, it's important because you have much more of a future than the older ones like us.
Voting's really important for all of us. It gives you a say, gives you a stake in what happens around you. Many of us spend our lives wondering why things can't be better, why things can't change, or when something goes wrong, what can be done to correct this. And voting is your opportunity to do that. And it's empowering. And I certainly felt empowered the very first time that I voted.
Number 2. What are the issues surrounding young people in Hastings?
Actually, probably the most important thing is that there's a voice on the council for you to have your say, to make sure that there's a vehicle. I know the Hastings Youth Council exists, that's great. I think it probably could do with even more routes into council decisions. And I see you've already taken part in campaigns like on mental health issues, which is fantastic. But I would say being able to access a good education and decent jobs with training opportunities, and especially learning skills to be part of the new low-carbon economy. We all need to learn how to do that. For example, building energy-efficient houses, for example, and also being able to afford to rent a roof over your head. We'd like to see council-owned land that's already allocated for building being used to build affordable, energy-efficient housing at social rents owned by community land trusts, and this would keep those houses as a permanent asset for the community. And most young people don't own a car, so it's really important to have a reliable and affordable transport system and safe walking and cycling routes. I cycled here today. It's pretty hairy out there. And I'm a member of the recently set up Sustainable Transport Forum, and I think it's really important that we have someone on the council to be a champion for those areas, buses, walking and cycling. At the moment, they don't seem to be a very high priority. And we also want to see town-wide 20-mile-an-hour limits to make it safer for walking and cycling. It's happened in quite a lot of other towns, and it's really made a difference to the amount of deaths. We have some of the most dangerous roads in the whole of East Sussex in Hastings.
Lack of opportunities. School results are very poor in Hastings, particularly in some parts of town. Unfortunately, all the schools in town, apart from one, are academies, and I don't think that's good. I think we need better quality state-run education, not schools run by private companies. The results, as I say, have been not very good. Skills are low in some parts of town, and a lot of children, I think, and young people have an aspiration to leave Hastings, which is a pity. There aren't the jobs here. Well, there are to some extent, but we need better quality jobs and more of them. That's partly to do with transport infrastructure. It's partly to do with investment that's been lacking in the town, and I think better jobs, better education, better skills training, I think is what we need.
I think the issues for young people in Hastings are often the same for everybody, because what politicians tend to do is to patronise young people and tell them what's important to them, whereas actually I think that what's right for the town is right for everybody that lives in the town. So, for example, I want there to be better jobs locally. I want there to be better transport locally. I want there to be better education locally, because of course education these days is not just about the young, it's about all of us. All of us have lifelong education. We should be reskilling and changing what we do as we go along in our lives. So I'd like all those things to improve. And what's more, when I'm talking about getting a street cleaned or cleaned better, I think everybody benefits from that. And so I think that these simple things, a clean and tidy town, an economy that works well in Hastings and St Leonard's, is as good for a 16-year-old as it is for a 96-year-old.
And number 3, if they do get in, what are they going to do to solve these problems?
There's an opportunity for, I think, as I said, a much more active role for the Youth Council. And in other councils, they've introduced something called participatory budgeting, where actually you get to have a say in how some of the money is spent. And given that councils are really stretched because of austerity and all the Conservative cuts, there's less money around. So to have some say in what money there is available, I think would be really important. For example, there's an upcoming community-led development plan, which is going to have quite a lot of money for Hastings, and I think they should bed in a young people's forum to actually have some say in that. And then really, whether I'm elected or not, I'd really like to hear the council view, local youth council's views on stuff, and it would be really nice if some of you felt like joining the Green Party or coming along to a meeting we could do with more young people. And we're also involved in our first campaign to try and make Hastings a plastic-free town. With Transition Town, we're bringing the refill scheme to Hastings, and we'd really like help recruiting businesses to that, which means you get free tap water points by just taking in your refillable water bottle, and there's an app. We've already got 18 businesses signed up. Everyone really likes it, so it'd be great to have some young people recruiting, and you can just get in touch via our Facebook page or whatever to join us on that.
Locally, I think it's not a great deal we can do. I think we can involve young people through the Youth Council in decisions made by the council, and we can look at the kind of things that we do around sport and leisure and stuff like that help young people and provide some kind of opportunities for young people. We've also got something called the Community-Led Local Development Scheme, which is EU funded, and that will enable us to do some sort of skills training and similar things in the poorest areas of Hastings and Bexhill, actually. So that will help a bit too. But with the massive funding cuts in local government, it's difficult to kind of start up any new schemes. We used to do some apprenticeship schemes, but those all kind of went when the funding was cut. I think nationally there's a great deal we can do, and we can bring back those apprenticeship schemes. The government introduced this apprenticeship levy, and that's done no good at all. It's led to fewer apprentices rather than more. And the other thing is that the Labour Party is intending to introduce concessionary bus fares, free bus fares for under 25s, which I think would help that age group particularly. But yeah, better skills training, more job opportunities, all the things I was talking about just now that would help Hastings generally, would obviously help younger people here, and sorting out schools and education as well, and ending the academisation of schools and bringing them back under state control and funding them properly.
Well, that's a good question, and there's several things. Is that one of the things that terrifies me about local politics currently is the huge debt that the council's taking on. The council is borrowing £28 million and it's going to be paid back over a 40-year period. And of course, the councillors that are borrowing this £28 million, or approving the borrowing for this £28 million, may not, in fact, be the ones end up paying it back. It'll be the young people. So the young people today, in 40 years' time, will be the ones still paying back this money. And so I think that I will put a stop to outrageous borrowing, and I'll help protect your future by so you won't have this burden of debt that today's politicians will lumber on the people of tomorrow.
We hope you found this video useful.
So make sure you vote.